The red and blue lights flashed across the quiet Long Island street, painting the white picket fences with waves of panic. Police cars lined the road like sentinels, their engines humming low under the winter rain. Yellow tape stretched from mailbox to mailbox, trapping the horror inside one small, perfect-looking house at the end of the lane. Detective Mason Cole stood on the porch, his shoes soaked, his eyes hard. He'd seen death before, too many times, but not like this. Not with the note. Not with the symbol. The girl was only 7. She lay still under the Christmas tree, the ornaments glittering above her like cold stars. A half-wrapped present sat beside her, paper torn as if she had been opening it when the nightmare arrived. On the box, written in red marker, were 3 words. "You failed again." And below that, a circle with a cross through it. Mason froze. That mark hadn't been seen in decades. Not since the letters from the Zodiac killer stopped arriving. "Sir," a young officer whispered behind him, holding a sealed envelope inside a plastic bag. This was taped to the window. Mason took it with gloved hands. The handwriting was sharp, perfect, almost artistic. The letter said, "It begins where it ended. The stars still speak, and the island hides my secrets." Mason's heart thudded in his chest. The killer was back. Or someone who wanted the world to think so. Outside, the reporters were already gathering. A man in a black hood stood among the crowd, unmoving, watching the lights. When the wind lifted, his coat flapped open, just enough to reveal a small silver pendant shaped like a cross within a circle. He smiled slightly, then melted into the darkness. The scene blurred in Mason's eyes. Fear, confusion, rain. He looked again at the girl. Her name was Emily Ramsey. The last name hit him like thunder. Ramsey. The name of a little girl murdered decades ago, a case that was never solved. Could this be a copycat? A cult? Or something that had been waiting in silence all these years? Before Mason could answer, a voice shouted from the other side of the room, "Detective! We found something in the basement." He ran down the narrow stairs, the smell of wet wood and dust filling the air. The flashlight beam bounced across old furniture and boxes. Then he saw it. The wall was covered in symbols, stars, numbers, strange shapes, drawn in red. In the center, another message. "Long Island is only the beginning." Mason's throat went dry. Whoever did this wasn't finished. And then, bang. A gunshot echoed through the house. The officers above screamed. Someone shouted Mason's name. He raced upstairs 2 steps at a time, his weapon ready, but when he reached the living room, the body of the officer who found the letter lay on the floor, a neat bullet hole in his chest. The window beside him was shattered. Rain blew in. The killer had been watching. The envelope Mason held slipped from his hand, landing beside the fallen officer. On its back was another note, written in fresh ink that hadn't been there before. "You're late again, Mason. Let's play." And at that moment, Mason realized, the killer wasn't just repeating history. He was rewriting it. The clock on the wall struck midnight. Outside, the sirens faded into the storm. 2 weeks earlier, Mason Cole had been sitting in his small apartment in Brooklyn, nursing a cup of coffee that had gone cold an hour ago. He was supposed to be on vacation, a break forced on him after the Harborfield incident, a case that nearly cost him his badge. But detectives like Mason didn't rest. Not really. He'd spent most of his leave reading old case files, trying to make sense of killers who seemed to vanish into thin air. That's when he found the letter. It was buried inside a box marked Unsolved, 1969. A faded envelope with the same strange circle and cross symbol drawn on it. But this letter was different. The words were newer. The ink wasn't faded. It had been added to the file recently, maybe within the last year. Mason had taken it straight to his old partner, Detective Sarah Quinn, who was still working out of the Nassau County precinct. She frowned as she studied it under a magnifier. This can't be real. The original Zodiac letters were written decades ago. "I know," Mason said. "But look at the ink, it's fresh. And whoever added this, they wanted someone to find it." Sarah glanced up. "You think it's connected to those disappearances out east? The ones by the beaches?" "Maybe," Mason said. "Or maybe it's something bigger." That same night, a report came in, a missing child in Suffolk County. 7-year-old Emily Ramsey. Mason wasn't on duty. He wasn't even supposed to be near the case. But when he heard the name Ramsey, his instincts screamed at him. He grabbed his coat and drove through the night toward Long Island. By the time he arrived, the lights were already flashing. And now, standing in that same house, staring at the officer's lifeless body, Mason realized he had walked straight into the killer's trap. The rain outside turned into a full storm, slapping against the windows. Mason called for backup, his voice shaking. Sarah's number rang through static. No answer. He tried again, still nothing. Then from the dark hallway, a faint sound echoed, the music box. The same one that had been beside Emily's body. It was playing again, slowly turning by itself. The tune was soft, almost sweet. Twinkle, twinkle, little star. Mason lifted his gun, heart pounding. Who's there? No reply. He followed the sound down the hallway, every step creaking beneath him. The light flickered. The music box kept playing. When he reached the end of the hall, he saw a small figure standing in the doorway, a little girl in a white nightdress, her face hidden behind her hair. Emily? Mason whispered. The girl raised her hand and pointed behind him. Mason turned and saw a message scrawled across the mirror in red. The stars never die. The lights went out. And that was when Mason heard the whisper, soft, cold, and close to his ear. Welcome back, detective. To be continued.